Zach is back in town for another great week of sports, and it's been a fun one.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. We got a lot of big news going on in every league. Everything's playing now. Everything's going. So there's news left and right about everything.
It there has been. I mean, let's jump right on in. This week has been highlighted. I think the biggest highlight of the week is obviously the baseball awards have come out. Not a lot of big surprises. I think everyone kind of expected most of the awards to come out, but I mean, we jump right off the bat with the two stars of the entire show, the biggest names in baseball this year, Bryce Harper, Shohei Ohtani. They both win MVP. I don't think anyone would argue with Shohei being obviously the AL player of the year.
Right.
Bryce Harper, I think, is a very deserving winner. I thought because Juan Soto ended up taking second place, I think Juan Soto would have probably taken it had he not had to miss the first month of the season due to the injury. Right. So unfortunately for that, because I love Juan Soto, but it was a good choices, I think, on both counts.
Yeah, I honestly thought Juan was going to get it. I was a little surprised by the Bryce Harper. Not that it was Bryce Harper, because I thought he would be a strong second place. But I did think that Juan was going to get it. The Shohei, I'm not surprised at all. I know some people are talking about Vladdy Jr. and it's like Vladdy Jr. had a great year. He did. But man, Shohei,
I think the only way that someone beats Shohei this season, because of the fact that he literally did a Babe Ruth on steroid season. Like right. He was better than Babe Ruth at his best. For one single season, not trying to compare careers, but for a season.
Right. No, I get what you're saying.
But the only way I think Vlad could have beaten Shohei was he needed to take the Triple Crown, and he wound up being in the top, I think, 3 on all 3 categories, but he did not win the Triple Crown. And the only way you're going to say that you're better is by winning that Triple Crown, because you're only playing one side of the ball. And for anyone who makes the argument that, well, just because he can play both sides, well, just because he can play both sides is rightful reason to do it. Like, I mean, that, right. And if anyone says like, well, then you could say that from every year. Yes. If he comes out every season and throws a 3 ERA and hits 40 home runs, I will tell you every season, if I was a voter, I would vote for him. And the Angels play well, and he helps his team, but it doesn't matter that you are a generational type. That's just, anyone else out there who wants to beat him, go beat him or be better than him.
Exactly. I mean, he's literally the modern day Babe Ruth.
Yes.
And we haven't seen a player like that in 100 years.
I mean, I'll just put it this way. I've never seen a player like that in my lifetime. Right. And I have nothing I can personally watch and compare it to, because Babe Ruth's career was played not even hardly on TV because the cameras didn't exist the same way back then. So I can't even go back and watch a comparison. I mean, like I said, I think Vlad Jr. in the future has a chance to step up above Shohei if he can step up just so much better than him on the batting side, and is a good fielder. And Vlad Jr. at this point is still he's a good but not great fielder, and he is a great batsman. So he's gonna have to step it up even farther. But congrats to Shohei Ohtani. Amazing season. Well-deserved MVP award.
And congrats to Bryce too. I mean,
and absolutely, Bryce he 100% is deserving of it. I hope Soto can play a full season next year, and I hope that he plays at the same level, because I think he definitely has a chance to be something impressive. But moving away.
Juan is definitely a future MVP winner. I mean, there's no denying that. He's great.
Absolutely. At the pitching, for the pitchers, it was Corbin Burns and Robbie Ray that wound up winning the Cy Young Awards. Not a whole lot of arguments on this one, but on the AL side, there was no one stood out this year, because we had pitchers that had stretches, but nobody really just was dominant all season. A lot of I feel like pitching in the league it's kind of going through a change right now, where you have a lot of teams going with the more just kind of starting only 5 or 6 innings and not playing 9 innings a game kind of players. And you don't have these guys going out there throwing 250 plus strikeouts in a season every year. Like the game is definitely changing. We no longer have the Verlanders of the world, are not quite the same as what they were. And this new generation of pitchers just a little different. I hope we start seeing more of this new generation of pitchers that can bat kind of thing.
Yes.
So
well, I think that is something that's going to start coming down the pipeline, or however you want to word that, because I feel like baseball is finally starting to get a little younger. That's always been an issue for baseball. It's been an old crowd. It's been an old sport. And I feel like it's kind of starting to hit with the younger generation now. And they're seeing, for them, this is the MVP. This is Shohei.
Yep.
This is what you want to be. And this is what these kids are going to want to play like. I think, it might be a few years, but I think we're going to start seeing more and more of this. And I think it's great for the sport.
Did either one of these ones surprise you, Zach?
Not really.
Because for me, I would have thought that maybe I honestly would have thought more votes would have went to Scherzer. I thought Max Scherzer was a viable candidate for the NL side. I'm not upset with Corbin Burns winning it. I just I thought with the fact that he was playing so well this year that Scherzer could have had a shot at it.
I think the only thing that surprises me is just the names themselves. Robbie Ray's been in the league for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Not a young pup. He's never really been considered a Cy Young caliber pitcher.
Right.
And so when I saw him come up, I mean, he did have a really good year. And I'm not surprised that he was in the conversation, but to see him win it, it was kind of like, oh, Robbie Ray, like, the guy's been around for a while, and Corbin Burns, same thing, he had a great season. So I'm not surprised that he won it. It's just more surprising that it's not names like Scherzer or Strasburg or Kershaw. It's like you said, we're kind of getting away from that big name, complete game type of pitcher. And you're starting to see more of these guys that are not so household names. Definitely. That are starting to get into these conversations because their innings, their inning counts are comparable. Their strikeout counts are comparable. And so I'm not surprised by who won. I'm just kind of surprised by the names of them.
Yeah. They didn't really come out. You would not have guessed these two guys winning it at the season beginning. I would not have been surprised with Harper or Ohtani winning the MVP when the season started because of where they came into the league at. Burns,
exactly.
A little bit different. Next, going into Rookie of the Year, I think one name kind of surprised throughout the season. The other one I don't think was, because he had a great really first half of a first season, which was last year. And that is, we had Jonathan India and Randy Rosarina. I think they get hurt because of their team. I thought that the Marlins had a great crowd of rookies on their team that I thought should have had a better chance. But that's the hard thing about having a team that's got like 5 different rookies playing on it is the team itself was never really good enough to make a good case for a lot of them. Jonathan India had a great season. I think on the American League side, I don't think there's any real question around Randy Rosarina winning this. I mean, he was on a good team that made a big run in the regular season, and he was a big part of that. Like, he was someone that could have been on the very bottom end fringe consideration for an MVP vote. I don't think he was. He was no real contender. But he was on the board as someone, like, if you had to pick one player from that team to be on the board for MVP, I would have probably picked him as being one of those guys. Like, really good season.
Right. Randy, I think Randy's already a star. I think he showed that last year in the playoffs, making it to the World Series and all that. I honestly, the only thing that surprised me about Randy winning it is I thought he was a rookie last year. Apparently, he didn't play enough innings.
Right. Well, so, and it all goes by, I believe it's percentage of innings to the season. Because in most seasons, they actually would have to play pretty much, they'd have to play the entire what was the 2020 season because of how it got cut so short last year. In most seasons, I believe you have to play 50 games or so, about 40 to 50 games in order to qualify as a rookie, for that to be taking your rookie season away from you.
Right. And so that's the only thing that surprised me about it was when I saw his name, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Randy played last year. And then, but then you start looking, it's like, oh, okay, he wasn't technically a rookie. He was brought up. I think the way they looked at it was he was more brought up to fill that roster to go to the playoffs.
Right.
But so that was the only surprise to me. I'm not surprised at all that he won it. I think if he would have been a rookie last year, he probably would have won it last year. He's great. He's a star player already in the league. Tampa is a pretty good team. I wasn't surprised at all by that one. India, I wasn't surprised, but how do I word it? I wasn't surprised that India won it because India had a really, really good year. But I don't think India is the same caliber of a player as a Rosarina, at least at this point. But
well, I mean, you can say that on multiple things, though, right? Because I would argue, going back to the MVP vote, I don't think the talent level for this single season was even comparable between Shohei and Bryce. Had Vlad Jr. done what he did on the NL side, he would have been above Bryce. Like Bryce, I think would have fallen third, fourth in line on the American League side. Just because that's the league you're in does not. You're an element of whatever makes you based off of where your situation is sometimes, right?
Exactly. And that's kind of where I was going, was like this year was just kind of an odd year. I mean, you know, India, and like I said, I'm not taking anything from India. I think he had a great rookie year.
Right.
I just don't, it's weird because I don't see him in the same conversation as Randy Rosarino. But it's the same thing with Shohei and Bryce. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and I think some of that comes from we always talk about like recency bias. I don't think recency bias is an issue here, but media bias is a situation here. Yeah. Randy Rosarina is kind of not out there in the media, but he is talked about by the media a lot because he's the star of a good team making a run, and he was their star. Same thing goes with a lot of these other guys, right? Shohei, I mean, 100% deserves everything he's getting because he's that talented, but he's also like always in the media. Bryce Harper, I felt like was actually having a step back season compared to some of his other ones. I mean, still a great season, but he is still like, his name is so renowned from all the years he's played that I think it automatically puts him, whenever you say position, they're number 3. It's kind of like he gets a 3+ because of the fact that he's already just got credited, or maybe there should be an asterisk behind his credit on why he's getting early attention. His stats still support the fact that he deserved an MVP award. The fact, of course, that Jonathan India was the best rookie in the National League this year. Randy Rosarina, best rookie in the American League this year. So props to the rookies of the year, both well-deserving. Randy Rosarina, I mean, I'm glad he got that because he wasn't quite on the MVP list caliber, but he was an MVP caliber player, and he won an award nonetheless because of that. So,
and I think India will have a really good career. I think he's a really talented player.
Absolutely. All right, our final awards for this year were the American League and National League General Managers of the Year. We have Gabe Kapler and Kevin Nash. For those that don't know, because these names are not nearly as well known as the players, Gabe Kapler is the general manager for the San Francisco Giants. Kevin Nash, the manager for the Tampa Bay Rays. Both, I mean, this award I think is really always one is more of it is truly a team-based award. It is what general manager gets the best running team in the season based off of whether it's like lack of cap or improvement from the season before. That's usually kind of the 2 criteria that's going to get you this award. You can't even like argue. I mean, Gabe Kapler took one of the worst teams of 2020 in the Giants that have kind of been on a downhill slide, and they were the best team in the entire National League for the regular season this year. Great job to him. Kevin Nash, yes, the team made to the World Series last year, but last year, 2020 was kind of an anomaly year. We had a lot of teams that would never typically make a good make playoff runs because they only had to be good for a short amount of time. It wasn't that longevity of a season. And, but he turned it around and did the same thing again this year. And he went up against a team of a Boston Red Sox who came out absolutely on fire. He went against the New York Yankees team that is known to be the powers, and a Toronto team that had Vlad Jr. going crazy this year. That American League East was a dogfight from beginning to end, and he led the team to being not just a contender, but winning the American League East regular season. They won the division pennant at the end of the season, and that is something that's pretty impressive. So both of them, in my opinion, easily well deserving of it, and probably the two best candidates to win that award.
Oh yeah, I think the Giants season speaks for itself for Kapler. I mean, like you said, he took one of the worst teams and turned them into the best team in the NL. I mean, it just speaks for itself. Kevin Nash, I think he's very progressive.
Yes.
He's one of those guys that, I've been saying it for years, and he's one of them that's doing it. And I really like him for it. He doesn't always start a game with a starting pitcher. He will come out with an opener, basically a closer at the beginning of the game. And he's just really progressive in what he's doing. And I think he is changing the game of baseball in ways that we're not quite seeing it yet, but you're starting to see things being put in place that he's doing, and other teams are starting to kind of follow suit with it. And it works. He took a team to the World Series last year. They won the AL East, the AL East again, or not again. I don't think they won it last year, did they?
I don't believe so.
I don't think they won it, but they made it to the World Series. And then this year turn around, win the AL East and make the playoffs again. And we're a good team in the playoffs. I think you're going to see teams kind of follow suit with what he's doing because it's working. It's working. It's different. It's working. Why not try it?
Absolutely.
Oh, and I really like Kevin Nash. I think he's a really good manager. Let's shift gears a little bit here. Let's shift gears. There's been some big news in football. I know a lot of people are going crazy about this Odell Beckham signing. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it wound up being ironically perfect for the Rams because the day after they signed him, they ended up losing Robert Woods for the season with the torn ACL, which is very saddening because I like Robert Woods. To see him gone. I think because of that, they wound up filling the gap of having a talented receiver that's going to be able to fill that role. Although they're very different styles of players. OBJ is definitely an outside guy. Robert Woods played a lot of slot receiver, and he was a much smaller player. So I'm not sure how that's all going to work out for the Rams. But with that said, if there's any coach in the league that knows how to make talented players talented, like beyond talent, it's Sean McVay with his creative offense and his creative styles of play calling. So I personally, I see this potentially being a big move for the Rams that could be good for them. OBJ's always a kind of question mark, but I think that if Sean McVay does it right, it could be something big for them. How about you, man?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of OBJ. I think he's a really good football player. I don't think you make the NFL if you're not.
Correct.
It's the highest level of football. Every player in the league, even your backup players, are very, very, very talented. So I won't take talent from him. He's got it. I just feel like OBJ is kind of a cancer to a locker room. I don't like it. I don't like the signing. I think it hurts the Rams more than it helps them. It might help them in the short term, like right now, just because of the Robert Woods injury. Yes, they're going to be able to plug and play a guy who is comparable in talent and hopefully not skip a beat. But I agree with you. I think they're different types of players. I personally think Robert Woods is better. And I just don't like the signing. I don't think it makes them any more of a Super Bowl favorite, in my opinion. I know a lot of people are now like, oh, this kind of puts them above the Bucs. I don't see it. I don't agree with that. It is a 1-year deal. I don't think he'll be back in LA next year. I think he will be in a new home after this season. I don't like it. I don't like the signing. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at that time of the year where teams are going to do whatever they need to fill the gaps that they lose.
Right.
We know every season teams are going to lose players due to injuries and stuff that they can't control. And whenever there's a talented, experienced player out there, teams are going to take advantage of trying to get it. I was like I said, I was not surprised that they picked them up. I figured it was going to be them or Green Bay or even Kansas City. I know that was also the front runners for it. But it's going to be one of those. Most of these veteran players that get kind of cut in the middle of a season, typically they're going to want to sign with a champion contender. They're going to want to jump on for a couple months, try and ride that wave, and then let the season and then figure it out at the end of the offseason. We'll see how it works out. I'm not sure if it's going to be a great move or a bad move. I would say this way though. I think there's so much talent on that team already that they could win despite him not showing up and playing well. Or they could win even better or be better yet if he does show up ready to play. So I don't think it hurts the Rams. I think they only is potential positive for the Rams. Because I think they control the environment, because I don't think anytime you bring someone in that late in the season, you're not expecting them to be the locker room leader, right? Like the locker room leaders are set. As long as he doesn't disrupt the locker room leaders, which I know is what your point is on that one there. I don't think he will. I think he'll I think knowing that he's only there for 3 months, he's going to fall in line and accept his role, because he's taken some ego hits the last couple of years. I mean, the Giants didn't want him anymore and they sent him away. The Browns literally just cut him as one of what is
try to trade him.
Right. They just like, whatever, move on. It's better for our team to not have you no more. And that can be hard. I mean, and these players in the NFL, they have some pretty big egos to begin with. And when you take a hit to that ego, I feel like that can be a challenge for some of them. So we'll see how it works.
OBJ takes that ego thing to a new level.
But it's really also, I think it's also what makes him, for his own brand and his own product, made him so big and so famous in the league, is because he had an ego. He showed it off in his, what was it, TikToks or whatever he was doing back at the beginning. His social media presence was very big and very popular. And because of that, people knew who he was. Then he had the huge play against my Cowboys. That was a big moment in his career.
He lived off of one play.
But there's been many players that have done that. There's been many players that one play has defined their career and propelled them into stardom. And there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of that, right? Because that's
and there's not.
I say props to him for that, even if I'm not maybe his number one fan. However, we'll see what he does. Like he is going to, if he wants to make another run in his career at being the top guy, he's going to have to show some humbleness while he's in LA, play his role, do well, respect McVay and learn from him, take advantage of the fact that he has a quarterback that can throw a ball like a rocket ship. And he has, like I said, I think he has potential. And what better team to go to if you're wanting to resurgence than a team like the Rams, where there's so many weapons, where you don't have to worry about being double covered. You don't have to worry about having 14 overlookers watching your way. Like you are going to have, he's going to have his chances.
And I think this signing really comes down to more of, I think in the end, it kind of becomes one of those kind of signings where it's now the Rams have him and no one else does. Does that make sense to you? Like, I don't think it was necessarily about, because obviously when they signed him, they didn't know Woods, he hadn't torn his ACL yet.
Right.
So I don't think it was that they were trying to replace anyone or anything like that. I think it was more so, let's take him off the market and then we don't have to worry about anyone else getting him.
Well, I think it's depth, right? Like it's no different than when Antonio Brown first went to the Buccaneers, or when he went to the Patriots before that. Like the Buccaneers have had no point needed Antonio Brown to be a Super Bowl winning team, but did it help them? 100%. And Antonio Brown hasn't had 20 straight great games with the Buccaneers. He has had a sporadic 4 or 5 absolutely crazy games with the Buccaneers. And that's all they want from him. That's all Brady needs. Brady needs one guy every week to step up for him. Right now, Matt Stafford needs one guy every week to show up and step up for him. Now, that could be Higbee. That could be Woods when he was healthy. That could be Cooper Kupp. Or it could be one of their star running backs. Or Van Jefferson. And he's had a good game. So, like, when you wind up having that many talented players, it gives you the opportunity. If they're willing to play in the system, it gives you the ability to do that. That was the problem that I think OBJ had in Cleveland, is he wanted to be the star and he wasn't always the star, and that's troubling for him. Hopefully he's learned a couple humbling lessons from all that, and he'll do it for his own sake. So we'll see how it goes, though. I think he could wind up having be a value added to the Rams if he shows up the way he needs to show up. And talking about value added and making a legendary career, we've had a couple huge things happening in the UFC the last couple weeks. Legendary matchup announced this week by Cowboy Cerrone, who's going to be having a match coming up, I believe, in January, February timeframe. That's going to be huge. On top of that, this weekend, Miesha Tate hit the cage and had a great match up this weekend. That's going to be something for the ages as she resurges her career again. I love Miesha Tate, but even more important than either one of those two, just about a week and a half ago, we saw Kamaru Usman get in the cage with Colby Covington. We saw Rose Namajunas get in the cage with Weili Zhang. Both of these were rematches that have already been fought. Kamaru Usman and Covington, matchup number 2. Rose and Weili, matchup number 3. I think a lot of people expected Weili to take Rose's head off. It did not happen. Rose won that fight. I was super happy for her. I love Rose Namajunas. She's a great fighter. Has made some interesting statements over the last couple of months, or in the last couple of years, in this battle with Weili, with the fact that she is a American through and through in her heart and loves to show it. And Weili, as we know, is a native of China, and that and some statements were said during that matchup that were a little bit took some people different ways, and but it was good to see. Rose is just a great fighter, and it was great to see her fight and win.
She is, and I believe Zhang is the one that she took the title from.
Yep.
What 4 months ago now? 3 months?
I think a little longer than that, but yes.
Okay. But yeah, so I mean, it's kind of become a rivalry. You know, like you said, it's the third fight between them. Rose is really good. I'm not gonna lie to you. A year ago, I wasn't very high on Rose. I didn't think she was that great. I didn't think she was gonna make it. She's really changed her career pretty quick too. Yes. In terms of UFC, that's you know, she looks like she deserves that title now, and she's held it, and I don't think she's going to let go of it very easily. You know, it's
well, and I think she shut up all questioners that thought that, right, because everyone thought that when she won the first one that she kind of got lucky and beat Zhang in that first matchup. She didn't get lucky. She was good. And that's taking nothing against Zhang. Zhang is good as well. She's right. I mean, they're the two best in their division in the entire world at what they do. And they put on an epic showdown. It was great to watch. And it'll be interesting to see who Rose is going to take on next now.
Right. And I think I agree with you, because a lot of people were saying she got lucky. I think this fight proves that she didn't get lucky. Right. She went out there, she did it again, and she defended it. So you got to take that luck topic off the table now. It's not luck. She's proven it now. It wasn't. So I think props to her. Congratulations on defending that. That's awesome. Usman, man. Usman,
he's a beast.
He is.
There's no taking anything away from that man. He is by far one of, if not the greatest UFC fighters in his weight class in history. Yeah. He has not only, I mean, he brought an end to this battle with Covington. It was a great fight. I loved watching that fight. I thought it was a epic matchup. For all intents and purposes, I would make the argument Colby got kind of ripped off a little bit by the fact that they're not giving him credit for the takedown. He took him down. He potentially took him down twice, once for sure. In the wrestling world, it would have been counted. They did not give him the credit for it. I think that's some UFC politics being played to keep Usman's record alive. But at the end of the day, that takes nothing away from the fact Usman won the fight fair and square. Right. It was a no doubt win on his part in that decision. And it was a great fight, man.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Usman, you know, he was kind of like the first one to do it. He's you know, from another country, from another continent. comes over, wins a title in the UFC, and he's kind of opened a floodgate now of guys that have come over and just kind of taken the sport over. You've got Adesanya, you've got Francis Ngannou. I mean, these guys are totally dominant in their weight classes. And Usman was kind of the first guy to do that. And he opened up the UFC world to a whole nother continent, a whole nother world, and it's awesome to see. I mean,
absolutely. No, and it is, and it's been amazing to watch because Africa was definitely one of those continents that never really had a foundation in the UFC.
right.
South America, we know about Brazil, we know about even the those that are coming from Australia and New Zealand and all that. We have the British born fighters that come out from the European countries. And we obviously know of our counterparts from China and Russia and Japan and those countries over on the Asian side, like lots of talent. And no one had ever really come from Africa. And then once he came over and made a name for himself, it has opened the door up for others to want to join in the sport the same way he did. And it's really cool to see because they have a talent set, just like those from Brazil bring that jiu-jitsu style with them. Like everyone from different countries, just they're brought up training in a different way and fighting a different style. And when you bring it together, and what's going to be really cool is watching as they start cross-pollinating the styles. When those that come with that African MMA background, but then they start picking up Brazilian jiu-jitsu to go on top of that. That will be a crazy thing to pick up. And you're going to start seeing that, I think, in some of the UFC gyms and MMA gyms around the country.
Yeah. I mean, you got guys, Ngannou is just sheer power and strength. I mean, the guy he's an animal. Huge, powerful, fairly quick and fast, but more so just sheer strength. Adesanya, he's super quick. He's very, his movements are just really fast. He's quick. And it's crazy to see, like, these guys are just taking over their weight classes. There's really, every fight I've seen of any of them, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of competition for them. And hopefully you start seeing guys train to kind of take these guys on and be a little more competitive, because if not, they're going to control their weight classes for a lot of years. Ngannou, Usman, Adesanya, those guys, they all have the title right now. And I don't see them losing that title for quite a while in any of their weight classes. So that's awesome. I mean, Usman, I kind of had a feeling he was going to win the fight. I knew it would be a good fight, but I didn't think at the end it would be very competitive in the sense of like points and win and Usman's great.
He is. And I will say there's no one that has given him a bit of better fight than Colby Covington.
Right.
That they fought twice now. Both times Colby Covington had an argument to try and win that fight in both cases. Usman rightfully knocked him out the first time. He won it 3-2 easily. This time, I think one judge even gave him a 4-1 win in rounds, but I'd say it was an easy 3-2. Covington, he showed up and he put a fight up. And I think the concern now is who else is there? Because in the welterweight division, Colby Covington is the only fighter that's ever even given him a run for his money. Right. It'll be interesting to see what happens first. Does someone else develop the skill set to actually compete against him, or does he just dominate until the point where he no longer is so far above everybody else? Like he starts fading off because of age. I know there's a lot of people that want to see him and Adesanya fight each other. I know neither one of them really wants to fight each other because as Usman has said, it is better to have two Nigerian champions than one Nigerian champion with two belts. They love the fact that they both are representing their country so proudly and so well. I don't see them doing that, but I'll be curious to see in the coming months who is the next one to step up. I know Covington is going to want to fight him again, but he is 0-2 against him. I think before he gets that shot again, he's going to have to earn his way back into that fight.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of other talent. Everyone in the top, I think 5 have all fought him and they've all lost to him.
Yeah. Yeah. He's kind of already dominated his weight class.
Yep.
What's your thoughts on let's go to basketball here. The Warriors, what's going on there? They were a dynasty and then they were horrible and now they're just the dynasty again?
I mean, I
back?
think we're seeing exactly what made Golden State so good in the first place is they develop and train talent like Noah.
Yes.
Just for context, they didn't sign any big free agencies here. They didn't go out and grab anybody. They actually traded away a little bit. They left the team the same as they had last year. It's the same team that was a play-in opportunity team a year ago. They brought the team back, and now they are in the top 2 to 3 at any given week, day, and time in the entire Western Conference. And that is because they are persistent and adamant about developing and training players. They still don't have Klay Thompson left yet. He is coming back, and the team is already probably the best team in the West right now, and it's only going to get better. It's impressive to watch them. I enjoy watching them. I enjoy watching teams that can do it so naturally. Like, I know they had a couple of years with KD in there, but the thing is, the reality is they won it before they got KD, and I think they could have won at least one of the two while KD was without KD being there when they was there. And nothing against having KD. KD is an amazing talent, but they're really good about developing the players. They're good about drafting. They scout guys out, they draft them, they develop them, and they make legendary teams.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, they've always built through the draft, and that to me is impressive. You know, they drafted Steph, they drafted Clay, they drafted Draymond,
James, and now they drafted Wiseman.
Yep, Wiseman is talent. I think he's going to be really, really good. They're one of those teams that they don't have, like you said, they don't have to go out and sign these free agents. Really, the only one they ever did was Kevin Durant. The rest of it's always been built by them, which is impressive. It reminds me, honestly, of the Chicago Bulls, the way they were building their teams. The only guy they really brought in was Dennis Rodman.
Right.
Jordan was drafted, Pippen was drafted, and that was their core team.
Well, and it goes back to before them, right? Because that used to be the way of the league. You go back to the legendary Lakers teams and the Celtics teams before free agency became a thing in sports. Teams had to develop internally, and not a lot of teams are able to do it. I mean, a good example, though, is another team that's also really good right now, and they go on their ups and downs, and that is in baseball, watching the Tampa Bay Rays. You watch them, they go all the way to the tip top, and then they end up, unfortunately, running into that point where all the players are able to go free agency, and in the MLB, it's not like the NBA, there's no salary cap, so they all trade away or sign away, and the team goes down, but then they have to remanufacture them, and they bring them all the way back up again. We've seen it now with the Rays twice. We're seeing it with the Golden State Warriors, the second coming of what could be a legendary team in Golden State. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's crazy. They look dominant again.
Well, and I think it's easier for people to cheer for them too, as well, right? Like the Golden State Warriors, the first Golden State Warriors team before they brought KD in, they were kind of like the star child of the sport because they did do everything internally. Like, you couldn't really hate on that. Right. Whereas then you have the teams like the Brooklyn Nets right now, you have the LA Lakers. Yes, their fan bases love what they're doing, but then the non-fan bases, they're very well the hated teams of the league because they're doing the Yankee idea of buying championships rather than developing championships. And there's a difference between those two mindsets. And not saying one's better than the other, but everyone has their preference. And
I like the way the Warriors are doing it. I think that's, to me, it's more wholesome. You're actually drafting these guys. You're, like you said, you're scouting them, you're drafting them, you're developing them, and you're turning them into stars. And they're staying.
They are. Well, and you're building the true team concept. Like, the guys buy into wanting to be a part of that team, and you're seeing the value that gets added from doing such a thing.
Yeah, and it's really cool to watch. Wiseman's been, when he plays, because he has had a couple injuries. You know, he's in his sophomore year now. But when he's played, he's been a really good addition to that team. And that kind of brings up another topic. Last year's draft, LaMelo Ball won the Rookie of the Year. And I'm not going to take anything from him. He's great. I enjoy watching him. I think he's just fun to watch. He's really, really, really talented. Wiseman's really good when he's playing, but I think people almost forgot about the number 1 pick in that draft because of LaMelo Ball. And man, he's balled out this year. Anthony Edwards, he's a beast, man.
Absolutely.
He's been super impressive. I'm just really hoping he doesn't turn into a Kevin Garnett where he has to leave to do anything. I don't know. I don't know what my thoughts are on that yet, but I've really enjoyed watching Anthony Edwards. I think he is just an amazing basketball talent. He's funny. He's got a sense of humor in his interviews. He's just fun to watch. I really like the kid. I think he's going to be awesome.
No, and I think you made a good point there. It's because that's always the hard thing about being a top draft pick, right? Is that typically you're a top draft pick because you're on a team that's not very talented to begin with.
Right.
Not very lucky. Are you lucky enough to be like Wiseman, where you're going to a team that really just got riddled with injuries, and that's why they were the worst team. And now all the injuries are coming back, and they're back to being the dynasty they were before they were injuries.
Right.
That's a very different style of how the teams get built. Whereas usually it is like persistent drafting and development. And can you do it that way? But hopefully he does follow like more of a concept of like Giannis, where it's grow and develop your own skills to become a great player. And then hopefully you can add in a couple small pieces. But for the most part, I mean, those teams were very like the Bucks winning it was a very talented team built on the foundation of a lot of internally developed players, or going and grabbing guys that were not number 1 draft picks and not star players. They were good players around the league.
Right.
And and by putting them together the right way, you turn good players into great players good players into a great team that can win a championship.
I mean, with the Bucks, I mean, like you're saying, you know, Drew Holiday's always been a really good player on not a really good team.
Right.
And they went out and they traded for him, and he just fit into that team. It just worked perfect. He was the piece they were missing, and it got them to that championship. And they've struggled this year. They don't look quite the same yet. I think they'll come out of it. I think the Bucks are very talented.
Oh, absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the year to see them maybe even back in the NBA finals, just because they are that good. But I mean, it's crazy in basketball how you see some of these guys where they go to these bad teams and their careers kind of get forgotten about until they leave and go somewhere else. And then it's almost like people remember, like, oh yeah, that's right, he was a number 1 pick.
And that's not just a basketball thing either, right? Because how many football players are the same way? How many number 1 top tier quarterbacks come into the league and they never really wind up blossoming because they went to a team that they got beaten up on and they didn't really get to shine. And sometimes we will get lucky enough to see them. I mean, a good example right now is watching over in Stafford in LA. He spent so many years on a really bad Detroit team that we knew he was talented, but no one ever considered him a top 5 quarterback because his team was always that bad. And now he went to a team that has weapons, has a coach, and is really good on defense as well. And now he is up there in the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. Did he change that much in 1 year? I would argue probably not, especially not that late in his career. He's not developing anymore the same way. But team around you does matter. And he's a great example of how that affects them. And there's a reason why other players that are probably less talented right off the bat are better developed and better become stars in the league. Sometimes right off the bat, you have the Mac Jones, where Mac Jones is definitely not considered to be by face value as talented as Zach Wilson and as Trey Lance and Trevor Lawrence. but he went to a good team that has a well-established team built for his style and is going to be adamant about training him to be a great quarterback. And I think that's going to help him in his career. So you see it in every sport. Basketball is just another example of that. Steph Curry was not doing that great his first couple of seasons. It took until they got Klay Thompson, they got Draymond Green, they end up going out and getting like David Lee and stuff like that to come in and be some veteran experience. And then they got a good coach with Steve Kerr that was just one of the best coaches in the league by far at developing. And Steve Kerr is developing them because he comes from a very similar talent style as them. Steve Kerr was never the best player on any of the teams he ever played, but he was never even probably in the top three at any point in his career. He had top three moments, but not top three player. But he knew how to develop players. Klay Thompson is now like, the funny thing is like he, at no point in his career has he ever been the number one guy in Golden State. He's always been number two to Steph. At one point, he was number three to Steph and to KD. But so he's very much had a similar role to what Steve Kerr was to those Bulls teams. I think he's probably more of a Scottie Pippen than he is a Steve Kerr, but Steve Kerr understands that idea of how do you play number two and number three to one of the best of all time, and developing players that way, keeping Draymond Green happy with the team, even though Draymond Green will never be the number one guy on that team. And James Wiseman's going to be the same thing on that team.
Right. You're right. Draymond will never be the number one guy on that team, especially when it comes to scoring. But the one thing I've always said, and I will stick to this because I firmly believe it, Draymond is the glue to that team.
Oh, 100%.
Draymond is the guy that puts that team together.
Well, and I think if you want a good example of that, when him and KD were having their issues at the end of the season, no one was fighting to send Draymond away to keep KD. Right. And we're not in the back offices, but all I know is at the end of the day, KD left, Draymond's still there. Yes. And which one of them is more likely to win another championship? I would actually argue that probably Draymond has a better chance than KD because the team is built around Draymond. Or KD obviously has a talented team. He has all the stars. Yeah. He has the James Hardens. He has potentially Kyrie Irving if he ever comes back and plays this year. He has all of these talented players, but they don't have a team yet. And Golden State, because like you said, Draymond Green, they have a team that is going to be great.
Right. And it's crazy how when they were going through their battles and stuff, it was almost like people picked their sides. And KD's the one that left. And it's like, wait a minute, this is a generational talent. This is one of the, I'm not going to say the greatest, but one of the greatest players and talents that we've ever seen playing basketball, and they just let him walk away. And it's because they knew we don't need him to keep winning. We did it before him, we did it with him, and we'll do it after him.
Right.
And they're showing, obviously they haven't won a championship yet after him, but they're starting to show that. They're showing like, hey, we're just as good as we were those years before him, now after him. And there's a reason why they won a championship before he showed up, right? Right. And to me right now, honestly, if I had to pick right now who I think is going to win the title this year, I'm probably going with the Warriors, especially with the way they're playing right now. And Klay is not even back yet. When Klay comes back, and a lot of people are going to argue the whole chemistry thing, like, is he going to throw the team off? I don't think so. He's already been there. They've played together for many years. They have chemistry. It's not like you're bringing in, like an example. It's not like they're going out and getting like the Bucks did for Drew Holiday. You're not bringing a new guy into the system that doesn't know the system. You're bringing a guy that has been there for years, that has already played with these players for years. He's just coming back from an injury. So there's not going to be that time of having to build a chemistry with him. And so that's already done. That's already there. So I feel like the way they're playing now, and with him getting ready to come back, that's scary. And the league should be worried. The rest of the league should be worried that the Warriors are back.
I completely agree. With that said, Zach, our time has come to an end for this episode. I hope everyone is enjoyed. Please let us know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going. And we will be back next week to talk about what comes in the news. There's lots of great football games, basketball games, hockey games that are all on the horizon this coming week. It's going to be great. So be sure to subscribe so you don't ever miss an episode. It's only going to be better and better as the weeks go on. Zach, have a good one, and we will see you next time.